Hello, Vegas, and hello, my no longer punters. We have two more games to wrap up week 4. Now, if you have gambling issue or addiction, please hit the back button because we can't have you hurting yourself. With the last two games of the week, we are going to be on the 1 unit line, and the first one is going to be a return to what we were on last week. That is the Minnesota Vikings versus the Houston Texans. Again, we will take the Minnesota Vikings on the money line. Houston's bad. Holy Moses, Houston is bad. And last week we avoided Houston against Pittsburgh because when Houston sees a man defense, when Houston sees a team that emphasizes the pressure that they get off of the edges, these are things that Houston's new offense are supposed to be able to deal with, and they still struggled. And even though Pittsburgh's a very good defense, this was the matchup that Houston wanted to see, so we avoided it. And it didn't matter because Connor and McFarland just ran all over Houston, and we knew that this was a problem, but this is a bigger problem than even we thought. And now you see Dalvin Cook. Now you see Madison. The Minnesota Vikings are going to be able to run the ball, and I'm not convinced that the Houston Texans pass rush, even with a healthy J.J. Watt, is going to be able to do as much as Tennessee was able to do last week. So this is going to put them in a bad position because with Watson and looking at Minnesota, you're going to see more zone. And that is not what Watson wants to see. Last week against man, that was his one opportunity to really shine. No. This Houston Texans team's in trouble. Dalvin Cook tried to rip the game for Minnesota last week all by his lonesome. I expect him to try and do it again this one. And the Minnesota defense did not want to play along. But I don't trust this Houston Texans offense one bit. Plus 160 looks good to me. I'm taking Minnesota money line. In the second game we have this week on the 1 unit line, we're looking at an under in the Saints and Lions game. Now, I don't believe that the Saints are the high-powered offense that a lot of people believe them to be. I believe it's ball control. I believe it's possession. I believe that they're trying to set things up for their defense. Now, this hasn't been what you've seen to this point. Against Tampa Bay, the game got sped up. Against the Packers offense has just been on full throttle all along. And against the Raiders, the Saints defense really didn't show up, and Waller 1v1'd them to death. They didn't have an answer for that, and the offense, they weren't on all cylinders. But I think when you see Detroit, you're going to see the Saints defense continue to come to play, but you're going to see this offense work the ball down the field very methodically, very efficiently. And looking at the over-under that we have on this game at 54, it just seems too high to me. I don't trust that the Detroit Lion offense is a high-power offense. Stafford's actually moving in the pocket quite poorly for him. And you can also look at the Saints' road offense as something that tends to be a struggle for them. They get more methodical on the road. So that, again, makes it so that the Saints defense has to carry the day, and this is going to be a lower scoring game. On Detroit's side, you've seen them kind of go away from the apex defense. Last week against Arizona, they played a very high number of man snaps, just straight up man. And I think Patricia's just sick of the fact of the communication being terrible and just trying to play whatever his guys can understand. Manning up the Saints is going to work pretty well, especially with Michael Thomas not in the game. Breeze is just simply struggling to get the ball down the field with any velocity to it. It's been an issue since 2018. It continues to be an issue for him. This puts the game on Kamara. This puts him directly in the crosshairs, a lot of checkdowns, but Jamie Collins is there to at least mitigate that to a certain extent. So I don't expect this to be big play laden. I don't expect this to be a high-scoring game. I expect both offenses to have their moments, but a lot of struggling, and that just makes 54 just too high in my book. So I will take it as an under 54 for 1 unit, which concludes the 4 picks for this week. Down below, you can find our year-to-date. We need to do some more work on this. We're up 5.8 units, and last week was our first week where we were actually in the negative. But 7-6 is not where we want to be at this point in time, so it's time to stack some wins on top of wins. All in all, I think this week is pretty treacherous. There's a lot of people that are moving on to the overs because of the point scoring that has gone on over the course of the season, but I feel that that is going to correct at some point here, and it's going to put a number of these high over games on the under. I feel like a number of the spreads are pretty dicey. A number of teams that the optics of them are that they're pretty good, but they're not exactly as good as you think they are. Whereas these bad teams aren't quite as bad as you think they are. It's just a rough week that I think there's a lot of interesting matchups. So we're going to stick with our four, and we'll move on to next week with whatever it brings us. Love you guys. We need you. Stay strong, and I'll see you on the other side.